The galaxy had seen countless wars, but none as strange as the one that brought the two most distant species together. The humans had been the youngest race to reach the stars. They were bold, noisy, and endlessly curious. To the elder races of the Orion Pact, they were little more than reckless children who stumbled into things they did not understand. Among those elder races was the Arvan Dominion, a proud and ancient people who valued bloodlines and perfection above all else. Their royal line had ruled for thousands of years. Each child of the throne was expected to carry the power of the gene mark, the trait that gave them control over life itself. But one princess had been born without it. She was beautiful, wise and kind, but barren. Her name was Lyra, and her existence was seen as a quiet shame. The Arvan Council often mocked her behind closed doors. They whispered that her value was as empty as the stars beyond the rim. When the humans came seeking peace after a long border skirmish, one Arvan noble made a cruel suggestion. He said that perhaps they should offer the barren princess to the humans as a gift, a gesture of goodwill, and a silent joke to amuse their pride. The idea spread through the court like wildfire. They thought it would be hilarious to send their useless princess to live among the chaotic race who knew nothing of royal bloodlines. So they dressed her in silver robes and told her she was to be a symbol of unity. The humans accepted her, though they could tell something was strange. The one chosen to receive her was Captain Elias, a quiet man who commanded a small outpost on a forgotten moon. He was not a noble, not a scientist, not a hero. He was simply a man who had lived through too many battles and learned to listen more than he spoke. When Lyra arrived, Elias did not know what to say. He had never seen an Arvan up close before. Her eyes shimmered like molten glass, and her skin had the faint glow of morning light. She stood tall and regal, even when her heart was full of fear. She expected mockery or pity. Instead, the human saluted her, bowed his head, and offered her a seat at his table. For the first time in her life, she was treated as a person, not as a symbol of failure. The soldiers on the outpost did not bow to her nor whisper about her. They simply talked, laughed, and invited her to share their meals. At first, she was confused by their lack of formality. They did not seem to understand what royalty meant, but slowly she began to find comfort in it. She learned to cook human food, though it was rough and strange. She learned to play cards with the crew and even joined them on patrols. The humans did not see her as barren or broken. To them, she was just Lyra. Months passed, and she began to change. She no longer spoke with the cold tone of her people. Her laughter became louder, her eyes softer. She started helping in the medical bay, where she found herself fascinated by human biology. It was so fragile, yet so adaptive. She would watch as Elias treated wounds with steady hands. He was not like the arrogant princes she had known. He was patient, thoughtful, and endlessly kind. He never asked about her past, though he knew it carried pain. One night after a long shift, in the medical bay, Lyra asked Elias why humans tried so hard even when things seemed hopeless. He looked at her and said, "Because trying is the one thing we can always choose." Those words stayed with her longer than she expected. Time flowed like quiet waves on the barren moon, and Lyra began to realize she no longer missed her old home. The Arvan had sent her away as a joke, but here among humans, she had found something she had never known before: belonging. The change did not go unnoticed. The Arvan Council occasionally sent envoys to check on her, expecting reports of misery. Instead, they received stories of her working alongside humans, laughing with them and leading small missions of aid. Her name began to spread among the colonies, as the alien princess who healed and helped her own people found this embarrassing. They whispered that she was being corrupted by the primitive species. Then came the day that would change everything. A strange plague struck the outpost. It was not a human illness nor Arvan. It attacked the cells, rewriting them from within. The doctors worked without rest, but they were losing too many lives. Lyra refused to stand by. She entered the lab and began to study the patterns of the infection. Her royal education had taught her advanced genetics, though she had never been able to use it for what her people valued. Most Elias warned her that she was risking her life, but she only smiled and said, "I was sent here because I was useless. Let me prove Them wrong. She worked for days without sleep. Finally, she discovered something in her blood. Her Barren genetics held a dormant structure, one that reacted to human antibodies. When combined, it formed a living cure. A miracle of two species. She used herself as the test subject and survived. The cure spread through the colony like a tide of light. Within weeks, the plague was gone. Humanity's youngest colony was saved by the one everyone had mocked as Barren. News of her act reached the Arven homeworld. The council was furious. They claimed the humans had stolen royal blood and demanded her return. Elias refused. He said she was free to choose, and Lyra herself stepped forward to speak to her people through the communication link. She looked into the camera with calm eyes and said, "You sent me away as a joke, but among these humans I found what it means to create life, not through blood but through purpose. You called me barren because I could not bear a child, yet I have saved thousands of lives. Tell me who among you has done more." The words spread across the galaxy. Her speech was replayed across networks, and her image became a symbol of change. For the first time, many Arven citizens questioned the arrogance of their leaders. They began to see humanity not as reckless children but as teachers of something ancient and pure, the will to care for others. Years passed. The moon colony grew into a thriving settlement. Half human, half Arven. Lyra and Elias continued to serve side by side. They were never lovers in the way stories often tell, but their bond was deeper than titles or vows. They built schools, hospitals, and homes for refugees from both worlds. Together, they created a place where species mixed freely. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. Lyra collapsed while inspecting the greenhouse. Doctors ran tests, and what they found left everyone speechless. Her body was changing. She carried within her a pulse of new life. The hybrid structure of her cells had awakened something long dormant. It was not human nor Arven, but something entirely new. A child born of two worlds. The medical staff could not explain it. Some said it was the result of her exposure to the cure she had created. Others whispered it was a miracle. Elias stayed by her side through every moment. He never questioned how, only that it had happened. Lyra would look at him and smile, saying, "Perhaps life just needed a little courage to begin." When the child was born, the entire colony celebrated. The baby's skin shimmered faintly like starlight, and its cry echoed with strange harmony. For both species, it was proof that the impossible could become real. Humanity had given the Barren princess what her own people never could, a chance to create life not through power or bloodline, but through faith and kindness. The Arven Dominion could no longer hide their shame. Their people demanded to meet the child. They sent envoys this time, not with mockery but with gifts and apologies. Lyra returned to her homeworld for the first time, not as a joke but as a mother. She carried the child in her arms and walked into the royal hall. Every noble fell silent before her. She looked around and said, "I was sent away to amuse your pride, but I return carrying the future of both our worlds. Do you still believe I am barren?" None dared to answer. Her words echoed across the chamber and into history. From that day, the Arven changed their laws. They opened trade and alliance with humanity. They studied human science and learned humility. The old joke that once began as cruelty became a legend of hope. As the years went on, the child grew into a symbol of unity. Between stars and hearts, between species and souls, Lyra watched from the garden of her new home as ships from dozens of worlds came to visit the colony she and Elias had built. He grew older, his hair turning silver, but his eyes still shone with quiet strength. Whenever he looked at the child, he would smile, saying, "I guess the galaxy needed a reminder that miracles don't care about rules." When Lyra finally stood before the Great Council for the last time, she carried no crown, no scepter, only the child's small hand. She said, "The universe is wide and full of walls that we build ourselves. But humans showed me that some walls fall when we dare to care more than we fear." After her passing, monuments were built not just by the Arven, but by humans and other races. Her story was taught to children who dreamed of peace. Her name became a word that meant hope in both languages. The colony she founded continued to grow, sending explorers to other systems, guided by the same belief that had changed everything. That belief was simple. A heart that gives is never. Barren generations later, the hybrid child now grown stood beneath the twin suns and watched ships depart toward the unknown. He remembered his mother's voice saying, "Do not let them divide you. You are the bridge between stars." He turned toward the horizon and whispered, "I will." The humans of the colony took pride in their heritage. The Arvan visitors came to learn from them rather than to teach. The two species who once mocked and misunderstood each other now built together. Their scientists found ways to heal planets, their artists painted skies with shared symbols, and their leaders spoke not of domination, but of harmony. And in quiet places, when people told stories around fires or beneath starlight, they would speak of the